Welcome back to another edition of Stock Center, energized by Sunglo. We're here at the World Pork Expo and glad to be talking with Andy Rash. Andy and his family live in Kewanee, Illinois, and have been very, very successful showing bears and gilts all over the country. We want to take a minute and talk with Andy just about basic protocol. So Andy, when you're getting those hogs home in the spring and you're buying that set for the kids, they're going to go to a lot of different shows. I know there's lots of check marks that you have to make on what you're going to do with that set. Maybe just walk us through the basics of when you get them home and where you start and kind of just your approach.
Absolutely. It's kind of a juggling act for us because we sell babies as well the same age, so we try to isolate first of all and keep a lot of those pigs that are coming from other breeders that are commingled away from the stuff that we have, who maybe are a little immature to different diseases and pathogens. But the first thing we bring them home, it's all about health. Obviously clean water and fresh feed goes a long way. It's up to you whether you choose to get a prescription and VFD and put medication in your feed or not, or whether you just use stock product from your local dealer. But the biggest thing is fresh water, clean bedding, fresh feed, and be attentive.
So just to ask maybe a question on the VFD thing, what do you do? I know that you get your feed locally at Early Bird.
We do.
That's a regional manufacturer for us. So
when we bring them home, we bring in 3 products. We bring in 803 or 800, and I do get that with CTC Denigard. We bring in 18G and 16G, and both of those I get medicated with Linko to start, especially when big temperature changes during the spring of the year. We medicate with Linko. Depending on the pig and the design and type, I choose which option I have.
Awesome. So after that, maybe walk us through that.
So from there, it's kind of a juggling process. We one thing that we have as kind of a phrase around the house is eyeballs every day. So at some point, I want every kid and myself to have eyeballs on those pigs from a health perspective. Really evaluate joints. Is there any feed left? We do start hand feeding immediately. And one thing that's interesting is we only feed 1 pound to 1.5 pounds of feeding, so 2.5 to 3 pounds a day. On 50 to 75 pound pigs is plenty of consumption. We typically get these pigs at a young age up and down the aisle. There's still a lot of cold weather in the Midwest, and try to evaluate them. Then we decide feeding options from there. The portfolio of products that we have in the barn at that point give us the options. We don't need anything else other than just feed and maybe some oats. So depending on the type and style, if you've got one that's got a little bit more oomph, maybe it's a little stouter built. Maybe you want to back down a little bit on protein. Know your end point. Try to mellow those hogs out and let their skeletons get right. One thing that maybe we do a little different is I don't really care about freshness at that point in their life. It's all about skeleton. Let their bones work. Keep their feet right, keep their joints right. And then as we go closer to the show season, we start stacking on a little bit more up high. One thing that's interesting about the 18G and the 16G is to me they feed a lot hotter than they are. We come off of 803, with our own pigs that we raise and go to 18 very young in their life. But once we get these pigs in from different breeders around the country, to me 18 feeds like a 20 and the 16 feeds like an 18. It's very, very dense feed. And to be honest, a pound and a half is plenty of feeding.
Yep, absolutely. So I guess, we talked a little bit about when you get that set home and what you do. Maybe just walk me through some management things as you're getting ready.
Right.
Let's say, your family and our family like to jackpot in Illinois, right?
Yep.
And we enjoy that. But what are some things maybe you're doing to get those hogs jackpot ready?
Okay. The biggest thing is when they're young, we try to, I call it kid breaking. Throw the kids in the pen, make sure they're in there, half an hour a day, sit in the back of the corner, let them come up and crawl on top of them and get them used to a brush.
Yep.
What's interesting, later in their life, those pigs will learn to hate me and love the kids. But so early on, we kid break them. From there, the next step is get them out in the aisle and maybe once or twice a week, just take them to the wash rack and back. Get them a little bath. Obviously make sure if you're in the Midwest, you have a heated wash rack or the weather suit to wash. But we break them up and down the aisle. And then from there, next step, pending weather, we move them to an outside walking pen. We do not free range walk, so to speak. On the first experience out in the yard, we have a walking pen that's 3 hog panels long by 20 feet wide. It's very cheap to make. Hog panels are cheap, and any clean bedding that they take out, so when we strip pins, we put that in the base, and there's no grass or weeds. It's just a comfortable place for them to walk. So then we go to pen break. The reason I do that is I don't want those pigs to get the mental authority that they can run as they need. Plus, it's a comfort zone for them and the kid to know that there's nothing really bad that can happen in here, right? This is a good experience for them and the kid. And then they graduate, to the yard, and then obviously to the walking trail, and switch things up from there. But the biggest thing that I would say is the decision maker on nutrition in the family has to have eyeballs regularly and make changes. We use a whiteboard process. There's a whiteboard. I think I got them for $2 at Walmart above every pen. The kids get to write the name of the pig. From there, that's mine. And so we change that weekly or daily, whenever we need to. The kids actually do the feeding, so they know that they go to the whiteboard and everything's labeled. Dad's, it's up to me to make sure that the board's right. But then again, I'm going to emphasize eyeballs on health. There are more good show pigs in this country ruined. And for the breeder's sake and for the family's sake, if you have questions, call the breeder, call the vet. But joints during the spring, and I'm just talking Midwest, the fluctuation of weather, the different pathogens they're exposed to, it's a big deal.
It is a big deal. So, you're, let's say, maybe talk about different kinds that you guys have fed. You and I both know we like them stout, and we like them early, but there's going to be times when you get show pigs that maturity is different than what maybe you're used to. Just how do you manage that, and how does that work in your program?
We commingle obviously from several different breeders. What's interesting is the people that I do business with, or our family does business with, we trust obviously, or we never would call them. But when they send us something, I want it to be hard to make. And hard to make comes in different ways, right? So whether it's extras in bone or balance or muscle or skeleton, I don't think any judge in America or any family is going to tell you, hey, send me an unsound one. So table stakes on skeleton, right? From there, we try to feed the extras, and the extras, you better pay attention, because when you get the ones with extras, there's going to be management calls and feeding, whether it's your base feed or supplements that are going to come potentially every 2 or 3 days.
Yep.
And if you don't have the comfort level with the portfolio of feeds, talk to your breeder or a feed rep to do so, because there's one thing that I've learned: when you're going to feed extras, you better be on your toes, because they can respond to things that normal pigs in the barn don't respond to.
Yep. So I know that you and I have talked in depth about just base feed, and I know you've talked a lot about that. And I think that some people get really anxious to feed supplements, and we have a very diverse supplement offering. But maybe talk about how you use 18G and 16G and even our new Coast product to manage skeletal development and maturity.
So again, I talked about the density of the base feed. We use Coast a lot, and actually a lot more this year than when we trialed it last year. What I've noticed about the Coast product is you're gonna keep shape up high and still be able to slow down rate of gains, still be able to slow down some of the protein building muscle situations you have. I used to use gestation feed. I used to cut 16 and 18 with half gestation feed, and you'd plane one out. There was obviously out of their shoulder, maybe back of their 10th rib, you'd lose some, and you just knew that that's what you had to deal with to get their feet and legs right. Coast gives us that option to still look like a show pig, but just chill out, right? The building block for muscle is protein, so obviously taking that out of the situation is a big help. But the base pack in there, from the vitamins and minerals and amino acids perspective, we show off of it. We've got several that jackpotted this year off of Coast.
So, no, Andy, you talked a lot about base feeds, and yes, we have a very, very diverse supplement offering, and people get very excited to feed supplements. Right. I get it, but maybe walk us through how you manage the swings in maturity and physiologically just development with those bears and gilts, and how you do that.
Yep. So the Coast product, it's a 14% protein, but we used it off and on for the last year and a half, but this year it's been a real key part of our feeding program, at least for these pigs that are here. When you've got the ones with extras and you're trying to manage skeleton, you're lowering the protein, obviously will do two things. Number one, it will slow your rate of gain, but it also will slow down your conversion to muscle, or protein conversion to muscle. So you're being able to use that product and still keep freshness up high has been big. We used to use gestation feed and cut it, and you'd lose a lot of that bloom. So, earlier you mentioned something about jackpotting, and our families, both enjoy the jackpot on the weekends. Sometimes I almost think we overthink that. A lot of pigs that get banners or get in the top 5 across the Midwest of the country are just on 18G, 16 or Coast. It's really not that complex at 150 pounds. Again, the biggest thing is to being able to adjust per what the pig tells you to do.
Yep. So it's more about evaluation of your livestock and not having to feed everything.
Absolutely,
right?
it is. And I'm not going to. We obviously use supplements, especially in the end. You know, I will use the Explode product at a 4.5 gram level. I know that's probably crazy to some people. You know, they think you might as well throw it on their back at 4.5 grams, but you know, to be honest, 4.5 gram level pulse throughout, you know, the course of their life at 175, 200, 225 pounds is perfectly fine. I think it actually builds you know, dimension or builds spread and increases weight gain without getting some of the negative responses of Paylean.
Yep.
But then obviously Sumo is a great product from 150, 75, 200 pounds just to blend in and increase energy. You know, and then in the end, obviously our go-tos, you know, are always, you know, Game On, Explode. And then actually we come back to 811 quite often and use that product.
So you mentioned 811, and I know that it's been a product we've had for a long time. But what's the difference you see in 811? Yep. Just at the end.
In the end, you know, 811 will add flesh. It will flesh them up, particularly forerib. When you're trying to get those bears right out of the back of their blade and down low and behind their elbow. To me, the 811 combination with Paylean, you know, softens that forerib. The other thing it does is I think it puts clean lines in them. And a lot of times in the end, I love watching, if you walk down the main aisle of this barn right here, during feeding time, it looks like half of the men in the barn took baths in a milk tub. You know, they're dripping with white crap, they're slopping stuff, and to be honest with you, that 811 in combination with a 16, 18 and a Game On will keep you clean lines, but still put the fluff where the fluff needs to be. Something I don't even know, it should be a term, but I've used on the mic lately is firm flesh. The days of the sloppy flesh is over, at least I hope it's over.
I agree.
And I think that Game On product in combination with 811, and if you need to add a little more Explode, you can add it, but you know, you cut it 50-50 with a 16, you're getting a 4.5 gram delivery. You know, to be honest, over the course of 14 or 20 days, I really haven't had to do much more if the basics are there.
Yep. Well, again, Andy, we appreciate your expertise and your opinions and some great information to share with families. And I think the take home for me is that sometimes you just got to keep it simple.
Yeah.
Feeding show pigs is an art.
Yep.
We know that, but sometimes the reason that the basics work are because the basics are built by industry leaders, right? Yep. Again, thanks for taking time here at the World Pork Expo. Good luck to your family this week, and we appreciate your business.
Thank you very much.
This is a Walton Webcasting production. Livestock like you've never seen before.